When Seth MacFarlane's The Orville was first announced, I was somewhat skeptical. I had long been a fan of Family Guy, but hadn't really watched it on a regular basis in several years. I was concerned that this would be nothing more but an off-the-wall parody, and I thought it would employ the same non-stop barrage of in-your-face humor as, say, The Family Guy or American Dad. My initial assumptions about The Orville were entirely inaccurate, and I think MacFarlane exceeded everyone's expectations, to put it mildly. Actually, he blew them out of the water. What Seth gave us, in everything but name only, is an updated Star Trek for the late 2010s. All you need to do is change a few small things, and this is a new Star Trek series. The visual style, the score, the writing, the themes, the quality of the acting. This is Star Trek. The true gem that is The Orville is even further augmented when compared to the Star Trek that CBS decided to give us. I never thought I would say these words, but Seth MacFarlane is an absolute genius. I always thought he was a talented comedy writer, but I never in my wildest dreams thought he would become the Gene Roddenberry of the 21st century. I have never seen comedy and drama fused together in quite this way before. Yes, it has comedy throughout, but it's a completely different style than Family Guy. In many ways, the humor is much smarter, with the occasional slapstick element thrown in where appropriate. Humor has always been an important part of Star Trek going back to its beginnings. It's one of the many reasons why it appealed to so many people. Discovery doesn't really have any humor, or when it tries, it falls completely flat. One of the reasons why The Orville succeeds is that Seth seems to have a unique understanding of how and where humor should be incorporated. It needs to be there to lighten the mood, to add a sense of fun, and keep the audience interested, but it needs to be done in the right way. The humor is what you have on the surface, but underneath you have serious drama. This is what distinguishes good science fiction from bad science fiction. One aspect of The Orville that is really striking is how it implements progressive ideas. While every other sci-fi franchise is pushing progressivism above all else, including quality, The Orville, like every other Star Trek series until the current one, manages to do it naturally. You want a show that focuses on more than just white people? You have it. You want a show with genuinely strong female characters? You have it. Like pre-STD Trek, gender and race is not an issue on The Orville. The characters are left to be judged on their own character. They have their strengths and they have their flaws. They are real people, not flawless and perfect for no reason whatsoever. MacFarlane also understands how pre-STD Star Trek dealt with social issues, and it seems to be one of the only current sci-fi properties that understands this. You can include current day issues, but you don't do it by picking one side and beating your audience over the head with it. An excellent example of this was the third episode to be broadcast, about a girl. Bortus and his husband, who are members of the Moclan race, a one-gender species, manage to hatch a female, and the episode-long discussion takes place examining both sides of the transgender debate in the way that Star Trek has always tackled current social issues. It also shows us that positions on societal issues need not be static. Bortus is initially single-minded in wanting his daughter to get a sex change, but he views this differently after Gordon and John show him Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, where he learns that uniqueness can actually be a strength. From that point on, he is firmly against the idea of gender change. The central philosophical question throughout the episode is whether or not this decision should be made given that the infant is unable to decide for itself. A trial on Moclus decides that the gender change will take place, and even though Bortus is opposed to this, he accepts the decision. The episode, penned by MacFarlane, did not beat the audience over the head with only one side. It examined both sides in a way that lets the audience decide which side they agree with. Star Trek also excelled as a social commentary that would warn about what might happen if current social trends got out of control. In the episode Majority Rule, the team lands on a planet seemingly identical to 21st century Earth to locate two missing archaeologists. What they learn is that this world does not have a traditional legal system. Rather, people are tried by public opinion. Every citizen wears a button where anybody can give them an up or down vote for any reason. Once you get past 10 million down votes, you get lobotomized. Lamar learns this the hard way after a video of him grinding a statue goes viral. He then goes on trial and just misses the 10 million mark after the Orville uploads a series of fake pictures and videos showing Lamar in a more positive light. Does this court of public opinion sound familiar to anyone? If you need more evidence that the Orville is the true successor to Star Trek, then you only need to look at the Star Trek alumni both in front of and behind the camera. Heck, Brandon Braga, probably one of the longest serving Trek execs after Rick Berman, is MacFarlane's co-executive producer. Arguably, Braga has often been blamed, perhaps unfairly, for the problems with Star Trek Enterprise that led to its cancellation, but the man earned my full respect after he accepted responsibility for these issues, which, with the distance of time, seemed to be very minor and were not entirely his fault. Like MacFarlane, Braga has an intimate understanding of what made Star Trek Star Trek. Yes, he was there during some of Trek's less than stellar years, but remember folks, he was also there for the golden years. Even one of the main cast members, Penny Johnson Gerald, was originally regular recurring cast member on DS9, and somehow she doesn't seem to have aged a day in 20 years. What holds this show together is McFarland and his portrayal of Captain Ed Mercer. What modern-day Star Trek seems to miss is that Star Trek does not work unless it is an ensemble show. Each character is given appropriate emphasis, and we get to know and care about each of them. But what ties these characters together is always the captain, or commander during the first 3 seasons of DS9. I think the one thing that surprised me more than anything else during Series 1 was what an incredible actor Seth MacFarlane actually is. We all know he does comedy extremely well, but what is striking is how captivating he is during serious scenes, and he can stand toe-to-toe with any pre-STD Star Trek captain. Honestly, it's almost like the guy can switch character types as easily as Bryan Cranston. The final piece that makes the Orville feel like Star Trek is its visual style. STD's style is like a found footage seasickness horror fest. It's all over the place, and I just don't get the strange angles. It's also so unbelievably dark, not just in tone, but visually. The Orville, on the other hand, adopts the same visual style as, say, Star Trek The Next Generation. My theory is that this is probably more the work of Brannon Braga, who obviously understands how Star Trek's unique look was achieved. The camera isn't all over the place. It emphasizes static 1 and 2 shots, which reflects the introspective and cerebral nature of the real Star Trek. The lighting is bright, much brighter than we would see on most other shows now. In Star Trek, this was a requirement for clarity on old standard def CRT televisions, but it also resulted in creating Star Trek's visual style. Real Star Trek is about hope, and brightly lit Starfleet ships help drive this idea home, even if just subconsciously. McFarland also went against what we typically see from most modern-day television with this Season 2 premiere. We're used to seeing effects-heavy season openers and closers that might be flashy to look at on the surface, but there's very little substance underneath. Jaloja was a character-driven story. At the center was the Orville's usually spot-on comedy as the crew travels to Moglis to watch Bortus urinate. Just watch the episode and you'll get it. We have an episode that examines the complex nature of relationships and divorce and gives us an honest take on the challenges of being a single parent. I'm going to go into this in more detail when I publish my full review. This is Star Trek in all but name, and a few minor details necessary to adhere to copyright laws. In short, we have Star Trek back. And that's it for today. Don't forget to subscribe and follow me on Twitter. And as always, everyone, thank you for watching, and have a great day.